What's a secret you'll never tell your partner but are willing to tell strangers on Reddit? Story 1. I shit my pants 2 days ago. The one time when she and I first got together, and she spent the night, I made it very clear I wanted her to leave in the morning. She was uncomfortable and brought it up later because of my behavior. I'll never tell her it's because since I only had one bathroom at the apartment, and she was on the toilet that morning forever, it probably wasn't that long, just had time, and my ass runs on its own schedule. I had to shit in a small trash can on the back patio area I had. I had a high fence so no one could see, but there was a mess I needed to clean, both outside and on myself. But of course, when she's out of the bathroom, she has no idea and is asking about breakfast or whatever while I'm covered in poo. After she left, I tossed my clothes in the trash can in the dumpster and took a long shower. And she also doesn't know that's the reason I've insisted any apartment we live in has 2 bathrooms. We've lived in 4 apartments together, and everyone has had 2 bathrooms. Because I'm not doing that again. Story 2. I never paid for her engagement ring. I went to a custom jeweler to have her ring made. It's a beautiful piece, and she loves it dearly, and it certainly wasn't cheap, appraised and insured for around $10,000. The jeweler was dealing with a lot of family issues at the time, and was incredibly disorganized. I went to pick up the ring and brought my checkbook to pay for it, and when she handed me the ring, I took it out and asked her who to make the check out to. She said, "Oh no, don't worry about it right now, just send me a check in the mail." I thought that was strange, but sure, okay. She then hurried off to help another customer and I left. But she never told me what the final price was. For the next 6 months, I texted and called the jeweler asking, "Hey, just tell me what amount to put and I'll mail you the check." And there was always a reason she couldn't tell me. "Oh, sorry, I'm out right now, I'll find it and text you later." Her shop was a few hours away from where I live, so it wasn't feasible to stop by and handle it in person. I tried for 6 months, but after that I stopped calling/texting and just figured I got the ring for free. I wouldn't tell my spouse, because I don't want her to think I took advantage of the situation or that somehow the ring isn't as meaningful because I didn't pay for it. Story 3. When he was away for work for 4 months, and I was working full-time and single-parenting and depressed AF, one morning I hurried our kid, 3, out to the car before daycare with my hands full of stuff. I put everything in the car, put it in gear, and looked over my shoulder to back up. I backed up 2 feet and hit the brakes. I didn't put our kid in the car. I was looking at an empty car seat. My toddler was standing beside his door on the passenger side waiting for me, and now he was crying 'cause he thought I was ditching him. If I hadn't looked over my shoulder, I could have run over our kid. Blame sleep deprivation and all the other shit going on, but mom guilt still eats me alive when I think about those 2 feet. And my husband will never know because I don't ever want him to think I'm a bad mom, or know exactly how bad it was for me while he was away. Story 4. My girlfriend of 5 years has been deaf since she was 6. She reads lips pretty well, but prefers sign language. I didn't know a single sign when I met her, but I could tell right away there was something between us, so I started learning after I got home from our first date. Fast forward a few years, I'm now fluent in ASL and we use it to talk almost exclusively. When she's not looking though, I talk to her even though she can't hear me or see my lips to read. I tell her how much I love her, how I'm going to marry her someday, how beautiful she is, etc. I've even been practicing proposing, so it's not so terrifying when I actually do it. She has no idea and I plan to keep it that way. Story 5. I got our toddler out of bed one morning and went to do a sniff test of their butt to see if they had pooed overnight, and when I lifted my child up I stuck their head in the ceiling fan. Oh, and the time I forgot to put the car in park with them in it. I feel you on the ceiling fan. I was playing with my daughter, tossing her in the air when she was about 7 months old because it makes her laugh. I'd say it was about the 3rd toss of going increasingly higher that I heard and then saw her head smash directly into our 10-foot ceiling. The look of utter shock and confusion that lasted for about 4 to 5 seconds on her face before she burst into tears now makes me laugh when I think back on it. But Christ, did it ever put the fear of God into me at the time. I was 90% sure I had just crushed my child's soft spot / compressed her neck. My wife said I ran up the steps with her holding her like I just found her on the road after a car accident trying to tell her we had to go to emergency right now. Christ, if I had sirens and lights on the car they would have been on all the way pedal to the metal. I feel you on the ceiling fan. I was playing with my daughter tossing her in the air when she was about 7 months old because it makes her laugh. I'd say it was about the third toss of going increasingly higher that I heard and then saw her head smash directly into our 10-foot ceiling. The look of utter shock and confusion that lasted for about 4 to 5 seconds on her face before she burst into tears now makes me laugh when I think back on it. But Christ, did it ever put the fear of God into me at the time? I was 90% sure I had just crushed my child's soft spot / compressed her neck. My wife said I ran up the steps with her holding her like I just found her on the road after a car accident trying to tell her we had to go to emergency right now. Christ, if I had sirens and lights on the car they would have been on all the way pedal to the metal. Story 6. Our cat didn't break the towel rack. I did. I was pretending to be fighting zombies and grabbed it, and ripped the goddamn thing off the wall. I heard her coming to check out the noise and looked down at my cat. She came into the bathroom to me asking my cat, "Why did you think the towel rack could hold your weight? You silly cat." Story 7. That he legit saved my life. He's a nervous, humble guy who doesn't like undue pressure or praise, so I keep it to myself just how bad off I was before he showed up. Because even in the aftermath of my mom's death and even in the face of some pretty nasty health problems, which I was just letting slide because I was so depressed I was kind of hoping they'd kill me, I was very, very good at smiling and being charming. 3 years of taking care of a terminally ill parent taught me how to smile and bear it, and feign positivity even when you're running on empty. And I never felt like I could be anything other than the fixer. The doer. The person who always knows what to say. The reliable one. They who has every answer and can make bad feelings go away by just fixing the problem for you. I was not allowed to be negative. Ever. But he, legit came in and helped me with mom's estate and cheerleaded me into getting out of a dead-end career and put a stake in the heart of some severely toxic relationships I had and even helped me budget so I could, finally afford, health insurance. Which wasn't a moment too soon, because I caught shit right in the nick of time. And he just kind of did it. In his mind it was nothing much because you were on the right track, but you had a lot on your plate and needed help, smiley face. And I just nod and agree because what else do I say? I actually wasn't. I was just going to let myself die because I was exhausted and miserable, smiles aside. Thanks for intervening. Story 8. No me but my friend. So his wife was really sick but was also extremely stubborn and religious. She believed that God will heal her, so he came to me and asked for a few of my sleeping pills. They're really strong and get you into a deep sleep quickly. So puts the pills in her drink, like clockwork. In 30 minutes she's out cold. He then asks me to help him get her to hospital. Next morning she wakes up in the hospital. Good thing too, course on top of that sickness she had stage 1 cancer. She survived, and it's all good now. But he made me swear I don't tell her what we did. Story 9. My wife shit while delivering our son. Something she was terrified she would do. The nurse cleaned up very quickly and gave me a look that needed no explanation. I never said a word. She talked after delivery about how happy she was that didn't happen to her. I'll let her keep that peace of mind for life. Story 10. I'm disabled. He works and brings home the bag. We do get disability pay, so it's still 2 incomes. I'm mostly clean, but my health gets in the way a lot. But man, I don't think I can ever tell him just how guilty I feel over my inability to consistently contribute. I hate that my disability and health overshadow some days. He gets home from work, and the minute he sees how sick I feel that day, he drops everything and ignores his own exhaustion to fuss over me. He should be able to come home to a meal cooked and a relaxing night of sitting on his ass before the next day of work. Sometimes he does get that, but a lot of times it's just us making food together and cuddling and gaming rather than me being able to take care of him. I hate it deeply. Story 11. That the thing that made me realize that I was in love with her is when I was taking a shower and got done, I walked into the room, and she must not have heard me get out. She was laying on her side on the bed with her eyes closed, and she was picking her nose. I didn't want to embarrass her, so I stepped back out and from a distance asked where I set my clean clothes as I was walking back in, to make it seem like I was just coming in. She was visibly startled and quickly stopped, but continued to lay there with her eyes closed. I pretended that I saw nothing, but I couldn't help but smile. It was such an innocent and human moment. I have no idea why, but it made me realize right then and there that I loved everything about her. As silly as that moment was, there was a beauty in it, and I cherished that memory. Story 12. The time I had intercourse with a snowman in a ditch behind my house. Though it was innocent, it's not something I'd talk about with anyone except the thousands of Redditors and millions of people who saw the story I posted here that someone put on YouTube. Anyway, I guess I could tell it again. So, I believe it was March 1993 and a huge blizzard swept the East Coast. I was young, bored, and extremely horny. I didn't know then what exactly it was that I was feeling, but knew that it was normal for my age. Well, we were out of school for what must have been 3 weeks but felt like an eternity. I wasn't around anyone my age, there were no girls in my neighborhood and obviously no internet for browsing of a certain kind, but even if there was, I'd definitely be too afraid to attempt it. One evening before dark, I decided enough was enough and I couldn't handle the urge anymore. I had been holding back for weeks because I was too embarrassed to do anything in the bathroom. The guilt and anxiety of someone catching me was too much. My room wasn't an option because the door didn't lock, and when my door was shut someone would ask why or just open it. It was far too risky and I couldn't jeopardize my reputation of being the only normal one in my family. I threw on my snow clothes and scuttled off into the wilderness behind my house with a plan. I wasn't sure I'd actually do it, but I wasn't exactly thinking straight either, for obvious reasons. Once I arrived at my destination, I decided to slide down into a gully that was about 15 feet deep. I sat there for a few minutes and listened for footsteps in case someone saw me, but it was silent, completely silent, where I could almost hear my inner voice say, "Don't do it, man. This is the moment of no return," I told myself. I was like a runaway train never going back, wrong way on a one-way track. Anyway, I got to work and started shaping Snow into a female body. She had boobs, curves, and the necessary inlet. I unzipped and went ahead with the task that lay before me, and within a minute or so it was all over. A few seconds of guilt and shame overcame me as I zipped up and erased the evidence. I crawled out of the gully back through the woods to my house. I went to my room and tried my best to forget her, but to my surprise that would be impossible, and every time it snows, I still think of her. Story 13. 15 years ago I had a new medication that did not mix well with alcohol. I had a party with friends, we decided to go out in town. Next thing I remember, I woke up in a cell at the police station, stripped down to my undies. It turned out I took a taxi. Instead of going home, I went to my mother's street. Apparently I was lucid enough to remember her street, but not her house, and ended up in her neighbor's backyard doing enough noise to wake him up. In the end, I got a $400-ish fine and a tremendous amount of shame. Story 14. When I was 14, my grandma passed away. For years, I had been bothering my parents for my own gold necklace. Well, Gram had a little bit of money, and she gave me the $300 for a gold necklace in her will. It was my pride and joy. I had it around my neck for 17 years before I met my wife. It was off my neck maybe 3 times in those 17 years. My wife, then girlfriend, knew how much it meant to me and asked to wear it once. Well, it never came home. She had lost it somewhere, or it had gotten stolen. I was distraught like crazy for 3 or 4 days while we turned our house upside down looking for it. Inevitably, I gave up, but she was very bothered by it all. So, I decided to go to a pawn shop and buy the closest I could get to an exact duplicate, and then I told her that I had found the necklace in the couch cushions. To this day, she thinks that I found my necklace from my grandmother, but this is actually version 2. Story 15. I don't know why I can't tell her. But lately, 3 years of marriage and a 9-month-old, I am more attracted to her than ever. It becomes distracting as I think about it all day sometimes. I think I'm embarrassed that it used to be a more average attraction and now it is in overdrive, been this way for months. I know it probably sounds silly, but it just feels like I became a different person recently.